Welcome to Let's Talk Luxury, the Mazars podcast series about how and why luxury brands are undergoing a business model makeover. In each episode, luxury experts discuss what's happening in the sector, from authenticity to circularity, new customer cohorts to retail experiences worth posting about. The luxury business model is changing, and in this series, we'll explore how to stay in vogue. So, let's talk luxury. Hello everyone. Our guest today is Pierre-Nicolas Hurstel. Pierre-Nicolas is the CEO of Ariani, the leading NFT platform for the luxury and fashion industries, which uses blockchain technology to provide greater transparency, data privacy, and circularity. Pierre-Nicolas, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm delighted to be with you today.
So to get started, can you tell us about the key issues that Ariani exists to solve?
Yes, absolutely. We can look at two of the main challenges we're trying to solve, or the main added value we're bringing on the table. First, the validation of the notion of exclusivity, authenticity, and engagement. With NFTs used as digital twins, you create a new way to help brands connect valuables to the networks via the NFTs representing the products. But you can use NFTs in a brand environment with many different use cases. The ones you hear a lot about, the purely digital assets, but also as community elements, proof of belonging, proof of participation. All of this being new ways for brands to create a direct and perpetual link with their community. You, as a brand, you design, you issue, you distribute NFTs. They represent products, allowing owners to have a better experience around this ownership and to resell them easily, for example. But they can be also purely digital assets or proof of participation. And all of this are going to create a park of digital assets, of a part of the brand value that is distributed in the hands of your clients and community, and that are going to build the foundations of a new CRM, which brings me to the second big challenge we're tackling, which is privacy. We want brands and consumers to own and control their data. We want brands to be able to interact, to provide a tailor-made service with customers, but we don't want them to depend on or to be intermediated by big technology players. The way it works today, when you're a brand, you want an interaction with someone, you need to have a follower. This follower is owned by Instagram. It's anonymous to you. You can't do anything if you're not paying this middleman platform. On another hand, if you don't want to do that, you're going to want to gather first-party data, like emails. To do that, you're going to give something to your customer or your prospect. You're going to try to have them give you this data about them, and then you're going to try to store this data and keep it protected, which is hard. You can have leaks and you risk a lot, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. What we're building with NFTs is a reverse CRM, where instead of having data about people within your information system, you distribute digital value to your customers, and this becomes the new link between you and them. You can now address them on their phones, targeting the NFT they own, without having to own data about them. So it's a pretty new way to think about CRM that is decentralized, that is private by design, but we believe that it is the future.
You've talked a bit about NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which have been hitting the headlines. They are entering the mainstream more and more. Could you tell us a bit more about why luxury customers, consumers, and the industry should be prioritizing blockchain and non-fungible tokens?
Well, I think brands, first and foremost, should want all their products to be part of the internet. They should want themselves as brands to be part of the internet. Today, a brand is a corporation. It's in the real, digital, physical life. Their products are physical products. They are in your hands. They are in the physical world. All of this is analog. In a digital world, as a brand, you want to be natively digital. You want your product to be natively digital. Not because we're all going to wear only a digital 3D version of stuff and not get out of our houses anymore and just change that to show up on social media. No, because you can do so much more with something that is connected than something that is not connected. So when I buy something, I want this thing to be interactive. I want to be able to do things with it. And when you think about luxury, I want this to be a store of value. I want this thing that I own not to make me lose money or spend money, but maybe invest money. If I buy something for 100 and I know I can resell it for 90 or 110 after 6 months or 1 year, it's not spending anymore. It's a very different way to organize my money and to gather value. Now, if I just have the physical version, it's going to be harder for me to prove to someone else that this is a genuine product. It's going to be harder for me to show that how I've taken care of, how many times I've serviced it, maybe to show that I've insured it. You can now easily do more with your product as an owner. And as a brand, you can offer more services, more experiences, more value within the ownership experience. So that, for me, is really the number one thing. Then when you think about a digital version of something, it's also a great place to give more information about the product. How has it been manufactured? Where do the elements and raw materials that have been used to create it, where do they come from? What has been its life cycle? Has it been repaired? What happened to it? So all this information, the story, the composition, the impact also of these elements can be demonstrated, can be transferred or shown way easily on a purely digital vehicle than on a physical one. So these are really the main elements. But now if you look at this vision that we have of an open and decentralized CRM, brands, they don't just have clients, they have communities. They are not just selling things, they are building cultures. So they have people that are following them, dreaming of them, buying them firsthand, buying them secondhand, receiving them as gifts. And the interaction with this community tomorrow is not going to be an email database. And it's not going to be a list of followers on a social media platform intermediated by someone. We believe that it is going to be a park of NFTs that have been distributed by the brand. And to make this really work, you can't have just the angle of, if you buy something to me, I'll give you an NFT. No, it has to be larger. If you visit a store, if you participate in an experience, if you put your list on your name on a list for drop, if you access a limited edition, if you buy a piece of brand value, now you have an NFT. And as a brand, I now have a community owning digital pieces of myself. And this is my new CRM. And this is what is going to create this direct and perpetual link, and this is why we're called Ariane, this direct and perpetual link between me and my community.
To be part of Ariane's mission, brands and luxury houses have to collaborate with each other. That could be something of a culture shock for the sector, for certain brands. After all, not only are they used to competing against each other, but many could feel that secrecy and mystique and exclusivity are all part of their appeal. When and if you're trying to persuade the CEO of a fashion house to join Ariane, and they said, we don't want to start sharing market information, what is your response to that?
Well, you don't have to share any market information or any secret with anyone when you're part of Ariane. You have two ways to interact with Ariane. The first way is to join the non-profit association that is building the open source part of the technology. All the brands we work with are doing this, but you don't have to. You can also use the other way, which is just to use the technology platform, be a client of us, and buy the software as a service license and never come to any collaborative meeting. But we haven't seen anyone, even the most secret brands we work with, the one I can't even mention here, they're happy to come to the meetings and discuss with other brands. Obviously, you don't put everything on the table, but the notions of ownership, of building a technology that is owned by an industry, for the very first time, we're saying, we're going to build something that's going to be yours. That's not going to be ours. At the end of the day, the IANI open source technology will belong to the members of the IANI consortium. But if a brand really doesn't want to be part of this pre-competitive, collaborative part of the project, they can just be a client of the paid version and, not talk to anyone.
You recently partnered with Mazars on the Conscious Collaborative Connected study. And in that, you say brands have to be smarter with their customer interactions and gather meaningful customer data. You've touched on it a little bit in the conversation already. Can you give us any examples of what you view as being maybe the most meaningful data? And are there any brands that you would highlight that are doing it well?
So I think as a brand, I'm interested in the surface of contact that I have with a customer. I think it's more important to know that this person owns 2 items bought in the second-hand market and participated in one experience in New York on invitation and visited the opening of a store in Manila. That tells me a lot about this customer. He's international, he's really interested by the brand, but he needs an easier access that he gets on second-hand. And catering to that customer is a new way to interpret what's happening, but it's probably more meaningful than knowing his or her age or, its address or maybe his email. So that's one thing. The second thing is when you combine leaks and data risks, regulations, and behavioral changes, there's no way you can imagine that tomorrow is going to be just gathering and processing data about people. All intermediaries, whether it is Google or Facebook, are making it more and more difficult for the brands to get any data about their customers. So they have anonymized walls in front of them. The players like Apple are now offering anonymous sign-on. With the Apple sign-on, you can give an anonymous email and just connect to anything without telling who you are. So all of this is going to create new behaviors, new habits. And, a couple of years from now, no one will share anything with anyone except with, Apple or, So if you're a brand, you have to choose between being completely intermediated by these platforms forever, having a huge cost to comply with the regulation, or exposing yourself to huge risks in terms of data security.
And my last question, and sticking with that focus on the future, can you share with us your vision of luxury fashion in a decade's time? How will it be different, and what are the big changes you see ahead?
So I think it will be completely circular in many, many ways. Not only will it be extremely easy to resell something, to buy something secondhand, but it will also be very easy to recycle, and things that we will buy will be made of recycled parts. So the circularity in a decade will be completely achieved, which means that every player within the system will be better connected to the ecosystem, which will make the entire ecosystem safer, seamless, and entirely digital. I think, obviously, blockchains, whether it is for digital value, NFTs for ownership, but also applied to the upstream, will create transparency and trust at every level of this ecosystem. And as a result, because it will be transparent and circular, it will become more sustainable and more ethical. We've heard Isabelle Massa on episode 1 talking about a demand-driven industry, answering the needs of millennials and Gen Z, who are much more concerned, obviously, about climate change, animal welfare, and sustainability. So all of this, because things will be transparent, connected, and circular, will become more sustainable and ethical. And then obviously the weight that will take the Asian customers with their different expectations, their ability to purchase and find information wherever they are, night and day. There's no online or offline. It's there's a customer, there's a product, and there are many ways to interact, and all of this has to be seamless. And making brands and products actual parts of the digital life and components of the internet is part of what will make brands successful in this market.
Thank you, Pierre-Nicolas, for your time and your insight into what happens next in luxury.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Let's Talk Luxury. To find out more about changes in the luxury sector, search Mazars Making Over the Luxury Business Model, or follow the link in the show notes. And to keep up with this series, subscribe on your favorite podcast app or go to mazars.com.